Man is God and exists in us and we in him. The eternal body of man is the imagination, and that is God himself.
All right, so that's what's up, man. Welcome everybody, man. We decided to do a live, man. I really wanted to get this cat on, Minister Jew on, as a prelude to a beautiful conversation that's really going to take place in its entirety, really a demonstration in its entirety Sunday, this Sunday, the 5th at 1 p.m. Eastern. It's a webinar called Less Stress, More Quantum. And I think my first question, bro, is really going to be, what's the point? What's the emphasis this go around with less stress and more quantum? And how is quantum even in the picture as if it's the alleviator of stress?
Mm-hmm. Great question. Well, and you look at all the statistics. Can you hear me, DeBeer?
Yeah,
Let me
yeah,
make sure
I'm
you can hear
good.
me.
I can hear
All
you.
right.
Yeah.
Well, when you look at all the statistics, what you come to find out is that stress is like the number one killer, man. Um, People are struggling with it, through many, many walks of life, um, just from, I can't find my keys stress to I don't know what I'm going to eat stress. And it's just the minor distresses that we have. You know what I mean? But then we have the bigger stresses, which are relationships, money, jobs, the things that we encounter on a regular basis that become more of our routine behavior and lives in our lives. So, um, what I've discovered through um, my studies in quantum consciousness, right, and the implications that the observation effect renders on the observer, that led me to wanting to learn what's actually going on inside of my brain. Okay. And when I start peeling the layers back of what's actually going on in my brain when I'm making an observation, or let's just say a recording, some type of measurement, some data's being recorded. When I'm studying my brain in totality, it was one area that stood out the most. And that was a region inside of the limbic brain, a structure that science calls, or the neuroscience calls, the hippocampus, which translates to mean the seahorse. Um, and the reason that I merged stress with quantum is because anybody that's been paying attention to what we do, Minister Jew, Noble, and Pool, um, I, for the most part, my conversation is in one direction, down one street, always the same, foot always on the gas, which is um, the mind science, visualization, quantum imaging is the term that I've coined for what it is that I do, um, where we take the implications of quantum physics and observation and we search to see where is the corresponding principle within us to match what these experiments are rendering, what the results that are coming from um, the laboratory. And so it led me to the hippocampus, which is where all of the recording is at. When you really start to study that thing, it's processing all space and time. It can contextualize any emotion, etc., and give it meaning, right? And it's the only part of our consciousness that's vast enough, or part of our brain, let me rephrase that, part of our brain or structure in our brain that's vast enough to be able to hold infinity. The imagination is limitless. There is no limits. And so quantum physics tells us that there's infinite possibilities in the wave. The only structure in my brain that allows me to have an infinite amount of possibilities is my human imagination, or the human imagination. So, How does that tie into stress? Unfortunately, when we stress, the very structure that's going to allow you to live your quote unquote best life, that's the new popular phrase these days, my best life, right? That's going to allow you to be able to tap into a well of creativity that you didn't even know existed before. The type of running imagination that your children have, that's like off the charts creative.
Mm-hmm.
That structure, when we stress, literally, physically shrinks in the brain. This is a neurological fact. When you stress, the structure that's connecting you to infinite possibilities, I say it all the time, you can't look around at anything in your immediate environment and not be able to admit or have to admit the very first one came out of somebody's imagination. It was no other place to be seen. I say it all the time. The first refrigerator, the first car, the first airplane, the first gym shoe, the first computer, before it came into existence, somebody had an image in their mind of how that idea could benefit themselves and ultimately the people around them. So it didn't start as an external thing. It may have been some external things going on that led them to think of something new, right? Something in the environment may have been stressing them, right? It's taking me too long to walk to the store. I should be able to get information faster than this, than a letter, right? So somewhere in that person's mind, they were looking to cut into time, right? And that structure that allows us to do that when we stress shrinks. So the premise for the webinar is less stress, more quantum. Why? Because the less we stress and the more we expand the gray matter in the hippocampus by working that structure, the more we can step into the quantum reality, right, that we want to experience, the more we can observe in what it is that we want to experience. So stress is literally handicapping your ability to be creative, your ability to envision a scenario before it takes place, right? That will benefit you because it keeps you stuck rewinding yourself in the past off a previous experience. And so that's not creativity. That's becoming a slave, doing something over and over and over and over again that's not benefiting you, which stress does. So that's the premise for less stress, more quantum. So we're going to talk about stress, right? We're going to get into the process. We're going to look at what it does to the genes. We're going to talk some scientific talk. And then we're going to get into what I like to do, which is the visual stuff, to combat that and show you that even though you may be going through things in the external environment, your internal environment overrides the external once you learn how to appropriate imagery properly. So that's the reason why I named it less stress, and that's how quantum is engaged in it, because less stress, more hippocampus.
Gotcha. I heard you say you give reference to the hippocampus when you're dealing with spatial orientation, and I'm hearing this correctly. It's the librarian in the brain that literally stores memory, that literally gives you the ability to calculate that the camera is X amount of feet from me. So it deals with your space-time orientation,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
And stress will literally shrink that particular gland or organ, and at the same time diminish our ability to expand and even know where we at and calculate distance, right?
That's right.
When we get into the spiritual talk, we hear the pineal gland is the one. What is your take on the hippocampus in contrast to the pineal gland? Because on this journey, it's going to be when I activate the pineal, the pineal, the pineal, the pineal. Why not activate the pineal if there's any truth to it?
Well, I think what happened is, and this is no disrespect to anybody that came before me. I don't want to bash anybody's work. That's not my intent. I'm just going to answer the question to the best of my ability. What's happened is, at one point in time, especially in the cultural dynamic that myself and yourself come up in, meaning the black culture, hip hop nation, um, 10, 15, 20, hell, 30, 40 years ago, a lot of the scholars were trying to get us to find ourselves, right? And the word melatonin, melanin, these different words started to come up, and it has a direct connection to the pineal gland. So within that, it became like our mainstay to kind of like certify our blackness, our universal blackness. We got melanin, and this is what separates us. And so it was necessary to a degree at that time because people needed it. They needed to get a sense of pride, you know what I mean, et cetera, et cetera. But for all extensive purposes, that's not the structure. And what's happened is this: people took that and then they started to parrot it without doing any further analytical analysis on exactly what the lecturer, the scholar may have told them, and they just took it and ran with it. And then it just became a popular thing. Oh, activate the pineal, the pineal, the pineal, the pineal, the pineal. Cool. But when we start talking about inner images, because the real question is, what is a person looking to experience when they're talking about having a spiritual experience? Right? Because that's the context that people usually use that in when they're talking pineal gland and spirituality, right? But you learn that it is the hippocampus that is responsible for all inner imagery that you will process when your eyes are closed, not the pineal gland. That's
so the vision,
the vision.
divine vision,
That's right.
is hippo.
It's all hippocampus. It is not the pineal gland. It is not the pineal gland. It is the hippocampus. So once you understand that, then especially when you start to study, like when you get into the neuroscience of what we call masters or risen lords or people who have multiple visions, you can, like DeBeer, what I didn't multiple times in these webinars. I've literally shown the process of quote unquote enlightenment neurologically. It begins in the limbic brain, in the hippocampus. The pineal gland doesn't stimulate the theta wave. In fact, the only structure that science has been able to validate that actually stimulates the theta wave is the hippocampus. That's just the truth. So when you understand that, meditation and visualization, along with some other things like the Sufis do when they do the swirl dancing, that stimulates the hippocampus as well, along with some other things. Shout out to Cosmo Boy. She just sent me that frankincense soap. Really do appreciate it. You know, so it is the hippocampus that's facilitating the inner imagery, the visions that you're having, the outer body experiences, right? Because you're feeling like you're out of your body. Your spatial orientation is it's like Paul says, the personification Paul says, whether I was in my body or out, I do not know.
Mm.
And that's a spatial reference.
Mm.
So it always begins there. And then from that point, the electrical currents move from one region of the brain to the other. So the typical enlightenment experience is from right hemisphere to left, and speaking electrically.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if you got it going the other way, you
You're a
can
bad
clap.
boy.
You listen, yeah, you know what I mean. So, and it's been multiple case studies. I got stuff where it shows the intrusions down the center of the skull when the corpus callosum is split into. Um, you know, Literally with a person still alive when they've separated the hemispheres and been able to see the spiritual experiences that an individual has and some of the deeper connections. They call it the anterior commissure that connects the limbic brain, because you got some stuff like deep down, and then you got the stuff on the surface. So the corpus callosum is connecting the stuff on at the top, and then underneath there you got something called the anterior commissure that's running even finer connections from both hemispheres of the brain. So, but I know I get along with it. Basically, the hippocampus is where all of the spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual phenomenon is taking place. That structure gets filled up to the point that the electrical current can no longer stay there. It's almost, how you pour something over in a cup,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then it spills over and it has to go somewhere else. And so sometimes it'll spill out into the frontal lobes. Sometimes it'll spill out into the parietal lobes. And so then you get different masters who got different abilities.
Yeah.
You got some of them that are able to see into your future. That's somebody who's it's spilt out into the frontal lobes, because the frontal lobes is dealing with being able to anticipate things that are coming in the future. So when the electrical current moves to one region or the next, that will solely that will
Activate a
determine.
state.
That's right. It will activate that particular essence in that master.
Right. Some people become clairaudient. You can hear
That's right.
and visions and things of that nature. Gotcha. On a parrot thing, that's interesting because it reminds me of the chakra system, and we hear literature. I've even remember saying it as I've learned it. The 7 colors of the rainbow and the 7 chakras go to the 7 days of the week, which is false. There's only 6 primary colors. Well, really 3 primary colors and 6 children. But 3 children. So it's 6 colors. And when you understand that chakras are abstract representations, because they're colorful, they're abstract representations of a bodily function, then you have to take in the account in physiology, man and woman do not have the same function. This is the fact. So it's possible that the chakra system, man and woman do not have the same quote unquote chakras if we understand the system. There's not 7, there's really 6. Just like if you're going to understand the whole color spectrum and whatnot, which is a whole nother dialogue. So you're right, we get stuck in this parrot mode of parroting information in a sense. Let me ask you this: dealing with stress, right? There's that thing where you get caught up in this loop. And 2 things here. Would you say stress is a matter of perception and can be controlled based how you perceive reality? Because on the basic sense, it's like my daughter sees spiders and insects, she's gonna freak out. She ain't going in the room. She ain't sleeping in there that night. That's just how she is. For me, it's a stupid bug. You tripping. So is stress a matter of perception and how one define it?
Absolutely. That's a good example that you gave too, because, and I'm gonna touch on this in the webinar, because that's a gene thing too. Like multiple people before your daughter,
Mm-hmm.
right? That the feminine aspect has been freaking out from that, right?
Right.
For so long that's a automatic suggestion. Oh, you're supposed to be afraid of bugs.
Right. Because she
Right.
has no experience,
With them.
bad experience with a
With them.
bug.
That's right. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? So, but outside of that, yes, it is perception, right? It's how you're, and man, this is a good, great question. It's how you're choosing to engage what it is that you're experiencing, right?
Mhm.
And so what happens is a lot of times, and it's difficult. I'm not going to front. It's difficult. We get into these group thinks, right? And then it becomes difficult to disassociate yourself from the group. It's almost like the magnetism is so strong and it's difficult for you to deviate away from that ideal, even though it may not be suiting you anymore. You know what I mean? So, but that group perception around that particular scenario, circumstance, or event, right, is broadcasting, a signal to all the alikes, right? So if you have to be strong enough and disciplined enough, and this is where you need a teacher. Like people, man, I be hearing that people don't need teachers anymore. Like, man, listen, when you don't know, how else you gonna know, right? You know what I mean? That don't mean you got to stay forever. You know what I mean? But somebody has to inform you of something, especially if they can render results from what it is that they're saying. But it's perception, man. That thing, that amygdala, that's the other structure, right? It's a fear structure. Now, don't get it twisted, because I'm very reasonable, shall we say, when I start talking neuroscience, because you need to be able to be put on notice, right? When, damn it, it's gunshots in front of you, right? Like, you need to be put on notice. So one of the lines that I always tell my members is, if you're not homeless, if you're not hungry, if you got a place to stay, you got clothes on your back, then you really don't have no problems, because those are the things that are certified fight or flight, right? Like, you really got to get in the mix to get your situation together, right? So, but outside of that, it's all of these other little things. We talk about all the time, DeBeer. Some of these news stories, some of the commentary circling some of these. It's those things that people inhale, right? Mentally, they inhale that mentally, and then they take, or they, go to the gas station, and every time they go to the gas station, the front page is something violent. They taking that in with them before they go to the job, while they drinking their coffee. They reading about this bad news. You're choosing to take in data and information that's going to stress you out. You're choosing to do that.
Right.
You're choosing to do that. So we have to become mindful of what it is that we're going to choose to engage. And I'm more concerned with the subjective nature of man, so that we can tune out the objective players and reshuffle the deck to match our impressions. I'm more concerned with that. And listen, I said it in the beginning. The number one things is what? Money, relationships, jobs, right? It's funny. Well, it's not. It's really nothing funny about it. It's just, as Noble would say, the corresponding principles. When when the hypothalamus sends the trigger to the pituitary, and those chemicals get released into the body, they have a specific landing spot, right? The adrenals on the kidneys that sit on top of the kidneys.
Yeah.
Now, earlier on in my studies, when I was under the tutelage of Noble Ampou de Beer, he taught me the craft of astrology. And through my study, we learned that the kidneys, that's a Libra energy, which is a Venetian principle.
Yeah.
Right?
Money and love.
Money and love. Ain't
Yeah.
God is a joker, man.
He's a straight up moron. Yeah.
The you know what I mean? The cosmic principle where this stress chemical is being produced and projected into the body to get you prepared to try to keep the body in homeostasis is directly related to the top two things
That's right.
that give you the stress, has a corresponding principle in the body of the cosmic principle that deals with those same two regions.
Facts.
I'm not making this up.
Yeah.
So, you know, in this webinar, man, you know, I'm going to be giving out 2 techniques. I mentioned it. I'm going to cover down on basic stress. And listen, y'all, this stuff is so simple. Like, people think that this stuff is so... No, well, tell them, if they knew the components of the wishing well, they would be like, it's that easy? Just that's all we got to do?
Listen, in everything.
That's right.
I always preface the conversation, you know, people who call in distress and they got a real situation where I can't put a consultation fee on them because I know they in dire need of a situation. So I would just tell them, and I would just like, hey, you know how we do this, and please report back with a testimonial. And when you do, I'll get the video from you at that time. Deal. Okay, cool. So just give me the value. It ain't about the money. Give me the value of your life changing. And I always preface it with, listen, this shit is so simple. It may go over your head and you may not even believe it. And you may think, nigga, you tripping.
That's right.
But just do X, Y, Z, and just keep doing it over and over and over again. And it's going to happen.
That's right.
And it's that simple. 2 things before we segue into something. Can we say, because if it's based off perception, can we say that the glands in your brain, the amygdala, hippocampus, can we say that it is actually studying you, and based off your response, then everything goes into action, as if it's saying, oh, scared of spider, amygdala says, oh, scared, stamp it, fear, hippocampus says, oh, I'll store it as fear, bad memory, see spider again, run. Is the brain studying you?
Well, I put it to you this way. The body and the brain has it comes preset. Like, you know how you get some stuff and it's already halfway put together, right? You get a table and it's kind of like already done, or you get a bike and it's halfway done, right? So you get this body that's already got some programs going on. It is your perception that's signaling the signal to these structures, and they just morph in and jump in and do what they've pre-programmed to do. So you literally are the maker and breaker. You should not be mad at the body, right? Everybody got an amygdala, do the same damn thing. Everybody got a hippocampus, do the same thing. The only thing different is the observer, which is you and your consciousness, that's dictating how those structures are going to either serve you or give you hell.
Yes.
It's that simple.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So let's take a quick little turn here. With fear, and I did a live today on YouTube and was talking about this thing called the black pill. The black pill is when you take we come up in the realm of information where was the Illuminati, the conspiracy. I was watching a video yesterday. I was so disgusted, really, that, one guy is asking, white guy, Jewish guy, and he's being the objective one. He's like, man, listen, is there ever a worse time than where we are right now? And the brother was like, yeah, we're worse off right now This was in 2017. In 2017 than any other time in history because white supremacy is at its height. And he's like, wait a minute. So 2017 is actually worse than being a slave. We are slaves right now. Don't be fooled, right? It gets into that dialogue. And I'm like, shit, I'm about to respond to this. In all caps, I ain't no fucking slave. I had to type that, right? So, and I'm like, man, this is retarded, right? So we hear that dialogue, right? And we hear all these various programs, MK Ultra and all this stuff, which we now know from what you said earlier, fear makes the body contract.
Yes.
And you can't serve two masters at once. Therefore, if you're contracting, you're not expanding. Okay? That's just a fact. Your attention is not on expansion when it's on fear. So you're shutting down. There was a point in time, bro, in your evolution of consciousness. You know where I'm going with this.
Absolutely.
Very
Absolutely.
interesting. Very
Absolutely.
interesting. There was a point in time in your consciousness where you was taking on information and you literally went out and bought a tent that can sleep, 13 people?
A tent, eight
people. 8. You were buying solar cooking pots. Because in your imagination, where infinite possibilities exist, if I'm hearing this correctly, that's what I heard you say earlier.
That's right.
You were envisioning yourself and family to be as being homeless.
That's right.
Having to live in a tent outdoors based upon how you were perceiving information. Right? It's fucked up, right?
That's right.
Like you literally was envisioning yourself being homeless, and right now, homeowner and business owner and successful real estate investor, we can say, you know what we got going on in a sense, to multiple homes. So there was a part of you that was listening to information that had you like, shit, I need a tent and solar cooking pots because I'm gonna be homeless when the shit hit the fan, to now Jaguar, homeowner, real estate investor, business owner, right? To what seems to be in which with 5 million in testimonials to prosperity and abundance.
God.
Do we have to take on that information in today's time, brother?
Absolutely not.
At all.
Man, at all.
In any capacity, do we have to learn that Black history?
And
never forget.
In no capacity. And let me tell you why. See, it's become popular. It's been popular. That was back in 2001. I remember I used to get these magazines called Frontline magazines. And they used to have all this quote unquote interesting stuff in it, right? Me and my homie Pokey all the time buying these magazines. Trilateral Commission this, Bilderberg this, World Bank that.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I spent, let me see, about 9 years entertaining that madness. This is why I'm so passionate when I speak on it. Because I would hate for somebody else to take those programs and waste 9, 10, 12, 15 years of your life rushing to YouTube to find Illuminati exposed videos and spending all your time drawing lines from one building to the next to see does it make a triangle, a 6-point star. And all that. Fuck that shit, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on. Like, no, you don't have to start there. Anybody tell you that is lying to you, and they are energy vampires, feeding off of your attention to sell you some hot garbage. All you got to do, look, this is all you got to do. Look at their body of work. Just look at their body of work, right? And look at the results that they've produced within that time frame where they've been talking that talk.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Don't get attached emotionally to the dialogue. Look at the body of work and say, how have these people evolved and advanced and moved upward mobility? How has their lives progressed? Or are they still on the same corner? Are they still repeating the same thing that they repeated 20 years ago? Is Rex 84 still their dialogue? You know, you gotta smarten up at some point. Like, listen, every president, it's something gonna happen. And then the big shebang never happens. And then when the next president comes, here comes some more rhetoric about what they finna do now. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. They listen, these people have mastered the art of rhetoric. Mm. They've mastered the art of rhetoric. And so when you look, like you Mr. Jew No Wampu, listen, we got a nice track record of results. We can show you the receipts from the 5 million in testimonies. We can show the people who have came on and made their own videos to testify about the healing testimonials. Right? We've done 25 trips, right?
Yeah.
Taking people all over, right? We've had spiritual experiences galore and can show the correspondences to prove it. So don't and listen, stop limiting yourself. It's a limiting conversation. And Pooh just said I had tents. These people will have you focusing on horror and terror for 20 years just to get $20 out of you. Just to get $20 out of you. Will have you focusing on horror, terror, they, and the man forever. And I say it all the time, look, you ain't got but about 80 good years down here. Mm-hmm. Your first 20, you a young punk. You know nothing, right? So realistically, let's just say from 25 to 65, 70, you can really like enjoy your stay here before you get like, it's time to check out. So if you got from 25 to what, 65 to beer, well, that's 40 years.
40.
Why would you spend 10, 15, 20 of those 40 chasing that tail on that dog?
Right.
It's not going to feed your family. It's not going to allow you to expand your awareness. Right? It's not going to allow you to get in a position to help other people who look like you. And I'm talking about in a tangible sense. Not just because you got information, brother. No. I'm talking in a tangible sense. Like the Toel Love Fund. 400 bills paid.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, you know, and I don't care who don't like it. I don't. Every chance I get, I bust a shot at the conspiracy target.
Nuts. Conspiracy
That's right.
Nuts.
That's right. It's a waste of your time. And I know what it is. When you study the brain, you see it's a fantasy, right? And that's how people are really working their imaginations, but they're working it in a detrimental way.
Right.
One nigga told us, imagine ourselves on a slave boat for 45 days.
Yeah.
Lost his entire mind.
Yeah. Told his audience that.
Yeah, told his whole audience.
After we did a radio show over there.
He was so mad.
Yeah.
that he was so mad that we was in there dropping quantum jewels on that audience.
Yeah.
Cause see, I ain't gonna, when the priesthood get in the building, it get electric.
Oh yeah, it gets popping.
It gets electric.
It gets popping.
Cause we got something that's potent and we know it. So the crowd calling in, they like, man, these brothers. Man, he rewinded that clock back 200 years and told everybody on that station,
Next week.
The next week, the show
himself,
is,
as soon as we off the show,
we're going to imagine ourselves back on the good ship Jesus for 45 days.
That's right. Facts.
See, this is what happens when people follow suit from the people that came before us. And like I said, no disrespect to the elders that came before us because they had a job to do too. Right? But see, we got to learn how to take what we can from that and remix it and augment it for what's important right now.
Right.
See what I'm saying?
Right.
So we don't subscribe to none of that, man. Hey, look, man, I'm sorry. No. Because it's, you know, like I know, man, it's still, like LeBron James just opened up a school, right?
Yeah.
Man, I saw some picture. It was crazy. Man, they made it look like it was they showed some Illuminati school somewhere that had the same stairwell and the marble floors had the same angles. I mean, it was crazy.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, this dude just opened up a school for hundreds of black youth for free, right? STEM programs, mathematics, technology, etc., right. Mathematics, etc.
Right.
Right? And here y'all come, man. Here they come.
Right.
You
so
know,
in a classic case like that, because I know LeBron James is a trigger word, Beyonce, Jay-Z are the three main triggers, right? You have the perception where people say, well, brother, they let certain people get in, and that's not a threat because he's teaching a broken system of white supremacy.
You want me to answer that?
Yeah.
People create from the level of consciousness that they're at. On one hand, all the black power people is saying, oh, we need to get involved in STEM. Right? Here's the other question. What is African centered? Right? Because last I checked, every time I hear one of these people open their mouths, black folks started science and technology, brother. Right, the beard?
Very true.
So now, it is African centered. They in there studying mathematics, engineering, technology, etc. That's what LeBron James School is doing. Right? So, because guess what? People over here in America, we're not walking around like how we were 2,000 or 3,000 years ago on any landmass. Sorry, people. Sorry. They want to stay in that time capsule. Fine. That's on them. But it's a new day, man. It's 2018, man. We got cars that are driving themselves. Right? They're teleporting photons to the moon. Like, come on, man. Come on. Like, I get it. I get it. I'm not naive to why. I'm just saying, listen.
Evolve,
damn it. Like, we can't stay there.
Right.
So, and like I always say, it's the slowest rotisserie ever. For 50 years, this rotisserie been cooking. Been cooking.
Right.
And then the other excuse, see, it'd be excuses. The other excuse is, oh, the white man he only got a certain amount of time to rule. That's how they do the moonwalk out of it. Right? Ain't gonna fool you. Ain't gonna fool me, man. With none of that rhetoric, man. I know better. Right? And so, let one in for what? Because the other side of the commentary is, he runs everything, he controls everything. Tell me, why would a person No, better yet, let's look at the other people who they controlling. When have black folks on this landmass in the last 100 years collectively rose up to represent a real threat? I'll wait.
Yeah.
The last time I checked, right? it- who listen? Who in control has to do a pump fake for you know like that's like LeBron James doing 50 pump fakes on an eighth grader. Could you imagine
Yeah.
LeBron James in the gym? He's got this little 5'3" eighth grade on, and he's steady doing this. That's crazy.
Right.
That's crazy. You understand what I'm saying? No, I'm gonna move you right out the way, and I'm
Right.
going to later. But you can't stop me. What I need to, I'm in here do triple
Right.
threaten on this. Come on, man.
Right. Right.
It just don't make no
I'm
sense,
with you.
Kabir.
I'm with you. I get it. 1,000. I get it 1,000%, man. That was crazy, man. All right, man. Again, we talking. The Prime Minister has a webinar coming up this Sunday, at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can get to it via theimaginationguru.com shop tab webinar. We're talking less stress, more quantum. Like, stop running to the stress. Like me, this guy is my outside source. He literally has to tell me, call me up and tell me, because I won't know. Like I won't know certain shit. I just won't know. I'm not connected to that. And if you understand and listen to the dialogue earlier, what the structure of the hippocampus does by processing, more importantly, storing memory, it's like a computer where you have too much shit on it. You would have to delete some things, delete some space. And if you knew how you were made, because the brain, especially, we always heard the subconscious mind processes everything, right? Then you really want to be mindful of what you watch and what you engage in, because you really don't have the space, or you shouldn't have the space for that. Because if you store it anyway, subconsciously, right, or willingly, like, why are you selecting to have negative conversation? This is going to happen to you. This was a horrible plot. Like, that's not deep no more. That's deep bullshit, right? It immobilizes you. Fear will sometimes, it will make you not do anything. So when we look out into the collective of what we produce, and I'm glad you brought up testimonials, man, because I was going to ask you, and I ask you now, how important is it to be able to see tangible results? How important is that to you?
Oh man, that's like top of the line for me, because, and it should be for anybody in the work of what we do. But the reason that it's most important is because it serves as a recording.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Uh-oh. He went out. He'll be right back. So again, we're talking about the upcoming webinar and whatnot. And hold on, Thinky. Let me see. You there?
Okay. Can you see me now?
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead.
All right. Sorry about that. So yeah. So if you can see something in your immediate environment, right? That's why they call it memorabilia, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a moment where you can flash back and you can remember what it felt like, right?
Right.
And it happens
Mm-hmm.
too with your bad experience. You could be sitting on the couch and all of a sudden a wave of depression hit you because a song come on and reminded you of a bad breakup you had 5 years ago, and all of a sudden you sit on the couch, you back down memory lane, you just sitting there with some tissue crying, right? So testimonials and results are great because they serve as reminders
Mm-hmm.
of the potential within you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you never seen something occur, right, then it makes your faith diminish. right? You start to say, well, I don't know if this really works, right? So that's why I'm here, because I show people timelines. I show people the neuroscience behind how long it takes to wire and fire together new synaptic channels, because you're programming this matrix from the inside out. So the earnest, it really becomes on you. Are you going to practice?
Right.
And then when the result shows up, like I was on the other line with Rocky the other day. It's one of my members. I'm not going to tell all his business, but he called me like, man, Jew, I got an issue, man. And same issue that he got now was one that he just conquered a couple months back.
Right.
And I said, look, man. I said, you forgot what you did? You forgot? So, prime example. This is what I mean. We're going to take it to the New Testament. I'm going to go Christ on y'all tonight. When the people was following the disciples in Christ, it got late. And the disciples like, man, we got to send all these strong of these people back because, man, look, they hungry and ain't nothing to eat. So, in the allegory parable, sit them down in the ranks 2 by 2, how many fish, how many loaves. We all know that story, right? So then all these people was fed. These 5,000 people was fed. A couple verses down, couple chapters down, the people get hungry again, right? The same disciples who just witnessed the miracle 2 nights before turned around and asked the exact same question. How we going to feed these people?
Mm-hmm.
So when you understand that book is a psychological book, it ain't got nothing to do with no historical nothing. These are dramas of the mind, right? So what they call it, I forget what they call it. It's another type of poetry that they call it. Epic. They call it epic poetry, right? So what happens is you forget, right? So you always need a reminder. That's why you set your alarm clock. You need to remind yourself through some medium of stimuli called sound. It's time for me to get up, right? So what happens is when you start to get more results, right, you need less reminders, which means at that point, that means you're comfortably sinking into your godhood at that point.
Right.
So that's why testimonials are important and results are important, because it adds on to your armor, where you start to realize I'm invincible. I got it. So that's why every day you see me come on, it's a testimonial, either from something that happened the night before, that day of, or usually when I wake up in the comments, it's always a testimonial there from somebody over the last 5 or 6 years where we've been doing it. So I'm gonna keep reminding y'all. I'm never gonna stop. Minister Jew gonna remind y'all every day, every single day, of the potential that exists within you. And I always said, DeBeer, we the last stop on the train, man.
Yeah.
You can get off that stop. You can trust me. Eventually, you're gonna find yourself on that dock, because that's just what it is, man. That's just what it is.
The peak.
The peak, the crest of the wave.
Yeah.
And that conspiracy is the trough of the wave. You don't want to look. You ain't gonna ride. You can't see nothing down there, man. You're gonna drown. Trust me.
Even and when we say that, like, this is true. I think the conversations that we have, right, like, we like 10 people, right, in on a live, from what I see, you know what I mean, like, our numbers far as participants is absolutely, I think, the smallest. It's the mustard seed parable, but the output, because I promise you, I can literally show you a couple $1 million in testimonials. The output is unparalleled.
That's right.
Without a shadow of a doubt. So it's like, take a line from Karen Civil, you know, everybody got Hondas. It's easy to get that because that's common, but everybody ain't got that Wraith. You know what I mean? This is the Rolls Royce information, and it's not taken away from anything, but pound for pound, when you look at the testimonials right here on Facebook alone, go into picture files and, you know, look at the photos of the testimonials. It's ridiculous. Like, I mean, it's great. I ain't gonna say ridiculous. It's great. It's a lot of it and whatnot, man. And so, man, I guess, man, we can wrap this thing.
We can wrap it up, man.
You know, we can wrap it up, man. But go ahead, man. Tell them what's popping.
Get to the website, theimaginationguru.com.
Yeah.
Click on the shops tab, scroll down the webinars. You'll be able to purchase the webinar there. All right. We're going to hit the road running 1:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right. I don't like to keep people a long time because this stuff is not difficult. I don't need 100 slides to show you exactly what you need to do and why you need to do it and how you need to do it. Right. So it's going to be dope. We're going to talk about some of what we talked about tonight. And again, we're going to deal with stress on just a simple level. And then I got a technique for relationships because a lot of people have been through breakups and bad relationship moments. So I got something for that too. So 2 techniques for the price of 1 month in the membership. And look, the membership is always open. You can also sign up for the quantum imaging membership, monthly conference calls, monthly webinars. Well, we at like 12 or 13 techniques now.
Yeah.
So we got a nice catalog for people dealing with a multitude of things. We always, timely. We don't miss. We fulfill our end of the bargain, and we make sure that people get this information and apply it. It's just not dead waste data. It's something that you can actually listen to, absorb, and apply it to see something occur, a scenario change, something morph to benefit you in your immediate moment now. So for $2.50 a day, which takes us to $75 a month, trust me, you can't beat it anywhere. So join the membership. Make sure you sign up for this webinar, August the 5th, this Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Links go out roughly 15 minutes before the presentation starts. So don't bug out if you ain't got it an hour in advance. We send it out about 15 minutes before, so you get it around 12:45-ish. All right. So just keep an eye out in your email, and we be rocking and rolling.
Yeah. That's what it is, man. Great, Bill. Appreciate y'all, and get on over there, man. Eliminate the stress, please.
More quantum.
I've taken that pill. You know what I mean? I didn't have a tent and solar cooking pots.
Hey, man, I'm burning that tent, man.
Hey, I told you, burn that shit.
I'm burning it. Hey, look, and I'm going to do it live. I'm going to do it live.
Do it live. Put that shit on the concrete in the back.
That's right. I'm burning it,
Burn it. Because you literally saw yourself homeless. And that's crazy.
Ain't that crazy?
Yeah, because I was like, man, listen, man. Shit, if shit hit the fan like that, the banks fall, motherfucker. the landlord ain't getting paid either.
No, he not.
So why the hell do I need a tent?
Mm-hmm.
Everything done collapsed. I'm living for free now.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So, man, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. But get over to the website, y'all. The Imagination Guru, man. Start employing and more of this information in your life, man. Make a choice. I always look at you and I'm out of here. I'm like, man, this guy. Because I don't really fuck with y'all on Facebook like that. If you notice, I don't. I don't like y'all like that. To be honest with you, like the ones who you're like y'all good. The certain people I don't, right? Because when I started on this journey, I had the wrong people around me. You know what I'm saying? But right for what it is. But anyway, I look at Minister Jew as being, life as a Y, a capital Y, and right at that V. At that fork, Minister Jew is like right there at that fork where you come to that V and you have to make a decision. Am I going to go this path of stress and contraction, or am I going to go this path of expansion and growth? So I see him constantly hammering. Somebody got to do it because there are fish in that pool, i.e. the people you're hearing information, and you may be even entertaining information. Ain't no even. I know people who fuck with us, and I can see people who are listening to some other shit that's like total opposite of what we talk about. There's absolutely no way in the world you can serve both and look at that. You can't. It's impossible. You're crazy when you do it. You really don't know, and that's fine because that's a state. I look at you as being that one that's right there, that's saying, hey, you can go this way. You no longer have to take that route where I took and had, a tent and solar cooking pots and shit. I've decided that I'm gonna go a little bit up the road, that when you get there, that we need to focus on some great prosperity and growth, and money talks, bullshit walks. Everything that you need, for the most part, I promise you, can be purchased. And if you got a problem that can be solved by money, you ain't got no problem. Trust me, you ain't got no problem. And the best of problems, health, whatever, can be solved by having the right amount of resources. I'm telling you, I want to say it so bad, but I'm not. We got so much cooking in a whole nother realm of what we got going on that deals to financial prosperity. It's stupid. It's stupid. But you can come back around and look on the Facebook page, and you can see just one of the properties that we bought. Just one. I'll show you one. The Yellow House, the big historical mansion that has an old school nursing home attached to it. That's going to be a spiritual center for the community. All right. So I don't want to talk about the problem no more. I want to create the solution, and we own it. Didn't no white people stop us from buying? You can't buy this historical property. They didn't stop us.
DeBeer, they actually had you come in and talk about ideas.
Yeah, they invited me to come to their meeting and talk about how to revitalize the neighborhood.
That's right.
That's what they did.
That's right.
Exactly what they did. All right. And got another property in that area. I'll show you that one later this month. Got 2 properties in the historical district. And those are just historical ones. I ain't even talking about what we got rehabbing and flipping. I ain't even talking about that.
That's enough.
That's right. That's right.
That's enough.
And so I'm telling y'all, get your mind, get your shit together. Separate from the bullshit and really get focused on your expansion. With that, I'm out.
Peace.
And so if you actually express joy, express thanksgiving for the slightest little thing done you are actually exercising that talent that is known in Scripture as Thaddeus. It's personified as a disciple. He's the 10th one. So I brought you tonight to meet Jesus. I do not point to any being outside of you. Do not look for him in any place. Do not look for him in any place in the world. I point within you to the Lord Jesus Christ. And he is your own wonderful human imagination.